From the News Channel 5 network, this is SportsLine.
Hey there, SportsLine on your television. Steve Lehman here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Tuesday night on News Channel 5 Plus. We can talk some playoffs tonight. That's right, playoffs. NHL, NBA all going on and getting down to the nitty-gritty, the Final Four in both conference finals. In the NBA, you've got the Raptors and Cavaliers doing battle in Game 1 tonight. The huge win last night. The Thunder going into Golden State and knocking off the Warriors, taking a 1-0 lead there. Just how big of a win was that for Oklahoma City? Think about this. During the regular season this year, the San Antonio Spurs and Golden State Warriors combined to go 79-3 at home. 79-3 on their home court this year. The last 3 road games the Thunder have played in the playoffs have been a Game 2 win at San Antonio, a Game 5 win at San Antonio, and then last night, 108-102, a victory at Golden State over MVP Steph Curry, not Seth, the younger brother, Steph Curry and the Warriors, to take a 1-0 lead in that series. So all season long, just 3 teams managed to win games in San Antonio or at Golden State. The Thunder have won 3 in the last 3 games at those 2 places and now have a 1-0 lead in the conference finals. And oh, by the way, how difficult is this path for Oklahoma City? Historically, just looking at the records, this Spurs team this year is a borderline top 10 all-time NBA team, just looking at regular season record by that metric. That's who their second round opponent was. Now they get the team that set the all-time NBA record for most wins in a regular season, the Warriors, who won 73 games. And if they get by that, they get a Cavaliers team which, we'll see what happens against the Raptors, but up to this point has cruised through the Eastern Conference and will be well rested and seemingly clicking on all cylinders the way they've played to this point of the playoffs, then in the finals. It's hard to imagine much of a more difficult path than that. Some people have said, look, the NBA is a little bit watered down. Those teams at the top, they really don't get challenged in the first couple of rounds. Well, that certainly wasn't the case in the Western Conference for either the Spurs or the Thunder, because either of the teams that came out of that series was going to get the Warriors and then likely the Cavs in the finals. That's a pretty tough road. Tough road to hoe. And that is the road that the Thunder are navigating, and navigating very well right now. Did you watch last night? What did you think? How surprised were you that Oklahoma City went into Golden State and won that game? And what does this mean now for the series? Some people thought it was going to be a long series to begin with. Other people, talking with Shane Foster last night on the program, we both thought that Golden State had the upper hand. And while it would be a fun series to watch based off of the regular season and what we've seen of those teams, that Golden State would have the upper hand and probably win in 5 or maybe 6 games in this series. Is it still a 5 or a 6-game series? Are we more likely to go 7 now? Or, after what you saw last night, are you more inclined to think that the Thunder have a real shot to win this series? Remember, Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant combined to go just 17 of 51 last night from the floor. It wasn't a good shooting night for the Warriors, but that's not a good shooting night for those guys either. And the Thunder were able to overcome that and win the game. You got to figure there's going to be at least a couple games in this series where those guys are much more efficient from the floor. So what does the fact that the Thunder won last night without them playing their best mean for OKC in this series? Over in the hockey playoffs, you've got the Blues and Sharks doing battle tonight. Game 2, St. Louis trying to take a 2-0 lead in the series there. The Sharks really played well in Game 1, just couldn't get the win. It was kind of similar to what Nashville did in San Jose in Game 2 of the semifinal series, where they were probably the better team on the ice. They just didn't have the most goals at the end of the game. And that's the thing. You hear so much in hockey about the process. And if you just do things the right way, the results will take care of themselves eventually, if not in that game. The only problem with the playoffs is you're on a short leash. So you can have a good process, but if you're not getting the results, it disappears pretty quickly. And that's what happened to the Sharks for sure in Game 1. And so now a little bit of the pressure is on, because even though you'd be going back home for Games 3 and 4, you never want to go down 2-0 in a series. If we found out in both of the first 2 rounds for the Predators, each series went to 7 games, so about as even as you can imagine. But the team that won the first 2 games ended up winning Game 7. And that statistic that a team that goes up 2-0 in an NHL series wins now above 86% of the time seemed to hold. So that's what the Sharks are battling against tonight. The Penguins did that last night. Sidney Crosby finally made an appearance. Overtime goal, 40 seconds into OT, to send all the Pittsburgh faithful home happy and even their series with the Lightning at a game apiece. That'll be interesting, and the biggest thing there is Ben Bishop, the Lightning goalie, out and day-to-day after that injury in Game 1. How soon does he come back, and what will his effectiveness level be for the rest of the series for Tampa Bay, a team that's trying to get back to the Stanley Cup final after losing to the Blackhawks in a tough series a year ago. The Predators, of course, wrapped up their season last week, Game 7. Want to get your thoughts on that. What this run did to you as a Predators fan? Did it get you more excited about this team and what they're doing over there at 501 Broadway? Where does this run rank in terms of the Nashville sports pantheon to you? And what's next for the Preds moving forward? Want to get your thoughts on all that. 737-7767 is the number tonight. Also, Titans rookie camp over the weekend. Got to meet all of the draft picks. Jack Conklin is an impressive guy. He understands his leadership role, worked on both sides of the line. But all of the draft picks had a lot of excitement about just putting that helmet on and getting the jersey on for the first time and getting down to work, because once the dream happens and you head into the NFL, well, then it becomes a business. How can you perform? How can you make this team? What kind of a role can you have on this team? That's what all those guys are facing now. Of course, the big news yesterday, the Titans waiving Zach Mettenberger. Today he was picked up by the Chargers, so reunited with Ken Wisenhunt. What do you think about the Titans' move? Matt Castle now in-house. He's the backup to Marcus Mariota. Apparently they found Zach Mettenberger expendable at that point, so they got rid of him yesterday. And then what about the fact that he winds up back with Ken Wisenhunt, the guy who drafted him here to Tennessee, now out in San Diego? He'll be the backup to Phillip Rivers. But when you look at the rest of the guys on that roster, there's not a lot there. And so if you're Zach Mettenberger, here's a shot. And if you're Ken Wisenhunt, you've got a guy who started in the NFL, hasn't won a game yet, but he's got the starter's experience. He knows your offense after the last couple of years. Why not make him your backup behind Phillip Rivers? Your thoughts on that as well tonight. 737-7767 is the number, and let's go to the phones. And we begin tonight with Dan. Dan, good evening. You're first up tonight on SportsLine.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
Doing well.
Oh, fantastic. Just a little bit around the hub of everything you talked about.
Sure.
Zach, do you think it was an improvement for San Diego?
For their backup position, I think so. Kellen Clemens is probably the guy there who's got the best NFL pedigree there, and I'm certainly not impressed by what he's done. So I get the feeling from people I've talked to and from what Ken Wisenhunt has said in the past is, despite the lack of success, he believes in Mettenberger. So if that's the case, I think bringing in a guy who knows your offense and knows you, that you're comfortable with, is a good backup. But obviously they're hoping like he has for many years, Phillip Rivers is healthy and on the field for 16 games.
And I was just going to say that the odds of that happening, I would say, are slim to none.
Yeah.
And I would say Zach is at least dependable enough. Let's say he tweaks an ankle, and, Phillip has to come off for 4 or 5 plays. You don't have an idiot in there. You got somebody stable, mature, like you said, knows Wisenhunt's offense, can step in immediately and do his job. I think it was a great pickup. And actually, I would rather him actually stayed here in Tennessee.
Yeah, I don't think you're in the minority there, Dan. I think a lot of people like Zach Mettenberger. We all kind of fell in love with his size and the arm strength. He's got all the physical tools to be a good quarterback. The success just hasn't been there for whatever reason, whether that is some of the maturity, whether it is the fact that this team, frankly, wasn't very good around him. He just was never able to get them over the hump. The interesting thing for San Diego, which to me is why it was a no-brainer for them if Wisenhunt truly likes him this much, is he's still on that rookie contract. And remember, he was a 6th-rounder. So you're talking about roughly $500,000 a season for the next 2 years on that contract. That's pretty cheap for a backup quarterback in the NFL. So if you truly like him, that's a bargain.
Fantastic. You made a couple statements, of course, about the Predators.
Sure.
I work in a restaurant with a large following of Predator fans, and I got to say one thing from how they came in when everything was rocking and rolling. The Nashville Predators play in a very special place in a very special town. And I talk with people that have followed the NHL literally for 20 and 30 years and been to every venue, every one. And they are coming in, and they came in droves saying, the overtime game till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, didn't get to bed till 4, had to get up at 5, and they said they would have done it all over again.
Oh, yeah.
The excitement of Nashville hockey is at an all-time high.
Yeah, I agree, Dan. I have a couple stories. The Game 4 that went to triple overtime, which is the longest game in franchise history.
All right.
I'm not sure if I have been in any sporting venue. I haven't been to every NHL venue, but I've been to several of them, and I've certainly been to a lot of sporting venues. There's only a few events in my life that I can even put on the same par in terms of the volume. When James Neal tied the game, and then at some of the critical moments in overtime, and obviously when Fisher won it, it was just explosive. You literally felt like the building might explode at times, and that is just an incredible testament to Predators fans and what hockey has become here. And to add on to that, it was early on in the playoffs, but one of the first games in the Ducks series, I was outside doing our live shots before the game, and a fan came up to me, and he was wearing a Montreal Canadiens sweater. And he came up to me and he said, we had to come down here because our team's not in the playoffs, and we looked at the playoff schedule and said, where can we go and watch good playoff hockey that maybe we haven't been before? And they said the no-brainer choice was Nashville. And we came down here, and we expected it to be a fun trip to a cool city, and, oh, by the way, we get to see some hockey. Well, we went to that game the other night, and it was as fun of an environment as anything we've ever been to. And that's the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, that is
Absolutely.
Hockey royalty where those fans are. And for them to come down here and say that, I think just speaks to what hockey has become here. I think you're right, Dan. It is definitely catching on.
And what do you think the odds are of Nashville, Tennessee being known as a hockey city? Isn't that crazy? But I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, Dan, we appreciate the call. No question about it. It has become. Music City is a hockey city. And when you hear the people on the national networks, you hear the broadcasters of the game talk, the thing that they will mention over and over is how special the environment is and how loud the building is. And you just hear it over and over. And that, look, part of it is the acoustics and the building setup, but a big part of it is the 17,311 strong, or 17,311 loud, as I like to say, in there, because when Nashville fans show up, they don't sit on their hands. They're active participants in what's going on, and they probably get juiced up a little bit out on Broadway before the game, and that certainly helps, but it's just all into the product. And I've said this for a long time, ever since I've been here, that in terms of just an event to go to as a fan, if you like hockey at all, or you just want to have a fun Thursday night or Saturday night out with your friends or your family. It's hard to find a much more complete night than going to a Predators game. You can go downtown. How many great restaurants are down there where you can have dinner and walk across the street and then go to the game? Or if you're of age, you can walk into the bars and enjoy the music and do all that and then go to the game. Combine it all in a night. It's a heck of an experience. And the prices here are not crazy. And so you get true fans in the building. It's not just executives and businesses handing out tickets and suites and all of that stuff that you see sometimes at the really, really big markets. You could get into some of these playoff games for, I think, about $75. I mean, that's crazy. I went to a Blackhawks game this winter, a regular season game. I took my dad, who's a big Blackhawks fan, never been to a game. I took him to a Blackhawks game. We had good seats down low. But the face value of the ticket was close to $200 for just a regular. It was a lower section ticket, but just a regular season game, game 50 of the season. That was what the face value of those tickets were. And certainly when you get to the playoffs, you're talking about totally different things. When you're talking about Nashville, you can get in the building, and you can get good seats in the building for very reasonable tickets for playoff games. Major League Professional Sport playoff games, which again, to me, just adds to the atmosphere. And it's why that environment was so special during a couple of those weeks. I just wish they could have gotten past that hump because they'd done so many firsts. The longest game in franchise history, the first Game 7 in the win, beating Anaheim, winning on the road, some of those great things. I wanted the first trip to the Western Conference Finals because as fun as the run was, I think we would have seen even another level with the love for the Predators and hockey becoming more ingrained in the fabric of this community if they could have advanced and we could have had a couple more weeks of the fun. But who knows? That's something to point to maybe next season. A lot of guys returning on this team. We're going to talk more about the Predators. We'll talk some Titans rookie camp, all that stuff. Robbie Stanley, by the way, came in on Sunday Sports Central. We'll do our complete interview with him coming up about where the Predators go from here, what's next for them, kind of their window of opportunity. We'll address some of those topics. And we want to hear from you tonight. 737-7767 is our number. Any topic you want to tackle, we can do it. Dan covered a bunch of them there. That was fun. We can do that with you as well. Our phone lines are wide open, so give us a ring tonight here on SportsLine on News Channel 5+.